The story begins in a small town in America called Paradise. This is a true story that started on the evening of November 7, 2018. At that time, a man named Kevin, who worked as a school bus driver, was dropping children off at their homes as part of his daily routine. After finishing his route, he parked the bus in the garage and asked his boss if he could get a little overtime this month. But his boss replied, "There are many people here who are senior to you. If overtime is needed, preference will be given to them first. If there's still a need, I'll let you know." When Kevin reached home, he received a call from the doctor who was treating his dog. The doctor told him that the cancer had slowly spread throughout the dog's body. Kevin would have to make a decision soon. The best option, the doctor said, would be to put the dog to sleep. Distressed, Kevin spent the remaining final hours with his dog. But when he found out that his son Sean had once again skipped school, he became even more upset. Sean made new excuses every day to avoid going to school. Kevin tried to explain to him that education is important. Sean knew that his father had not completed his own education, so he replied, "You also dropped out of school halfway. What difference would it make if I do the same?" Kevin tried to reason with him, saying, "Have you gone crazy? I had no choice back then. You're getting an opportunity now. Why are you repeating the same mistake I made?" But Sean, annoyed, turned the music volume up so high that he couldn't hear his father anymore. Kevin worked day and night to keep his family happy. He wanted his son to live a better life. Saddened, Kevin took his dog to the doctor. When the dog first came into his life, it was just a small, adorable puppy. For so many years, it had been his closest companion. With a heavy heart, Kevin told the doctor, "Please put him to sleep. I can't watch him suffer anymore." The next day, the weather suddenly turned very bad. Strong winds began to blow, and the storm showed no sign of stopping. Suddenly, there was a loud explosion at an electric pole, and the power lines fell onto the dry mountains. Within moments, fire spread everywhere. That same morning, when Kevin arrived at work, he noticed that the sky looked unusually dark. As usual, he took his bus and went out to drop the children at school. When he returned, Ruby told him to take the bus to the mechanic and get it serviced. "I'll give you overtime for it," she said. At the same time, the fire department received a call from a truck driver who reported a fire in the mountains. Hearing this, the entire department sprang into action and headed straight toward the fire. Soon they began to see flames in the distance. On the other hand, Kevin was doing his duty when he received a call from his mother. She told him that Sean's condition was very bad and that they would have to take him to the hospital immediately. Meanwhile, the firefighters were getting close to the fire. Mackenzie calculated that confronting the fire directly would be extremely dangerous and that they needed to call for backup. This was beyond what they could handle alone. Before leaving the bus for servicing, Kevin called his mother and asked her to check whether Sean had a high fever. But at that moment, Kevin noticed dark clouds of smoke and ash moving toward them. He quickly went to get medicine for his son. To minimize damage and prevent the fire from spreading, the fire chief ordered that power to the entire city be shut down. But by then, the fire had become extremely dangerous. Many nearby houses were already engulfed in flames, and people were desperately trying to escape the area. Seeing residents fleeing from burning homes, Hopkins realized that the situation had become far more serious. He immediately called in the medical team as well. Called them. While heading home, Kevin received a call from his boss, Ruby, who ordered him to bring the bus back to the garage immediately. The fire was spreading everywhere. But Kevin was more worried about his son than his job. Ignoring the orders, he stopped at a pharmacy to buy medicine. When Kevin came out of the store, he saw that the cloud of smoke had grown even thicker. Realizing he also needed to save his job, he quickly started driving toward the garage. Meanwhile, the fire chief learned that fire trucks would not be able to reach the area where the fire had started. Therefore, they requested help from airplanes to stop the fire spreading through the mountains. Their trucks were instead being used to rescue people who were still trapped in the area. When Hopkins realized that he wouldn't be able to evacuate everyone in time, he stopped the vehicle near a small pond and told everyone to run into the water. While calling for help, he tried his best to keep everyone calm and safe. At headquarters, after analyzing the direction of the wind, it was calculated that the fire would soon reach the city of Paradise. As a result, an order was issued to evacuate the entire city. However, due to the spreading fire and the electricity being shut down, all traffic signals failed. Because of the strong winds, aircraft were also unable to control the fire, and teachers began searching for ways to get the children home safely. While driving toward the garage, Kevin received a call from his ex-wife Linda, who had found out that Sean was sick. She shouted angrily, "You never should have left him with me. What kind of care are you taking of him?" Saying this, Linda hung up the phone. Disturbed, Kevin stopped the bus and tried calling his son, but there was no response. Suddenly he turned the bus toward his own house. At the school, Mary was sending children back with their parents. For those whose parents hadn't arrived, she asked the principal what they should do. The principal then called the garage and requested a bus. Ruby asked all the drivers over the radio, "Who is near the school?" Kevin replied, "I'll pick up the children." When he reached the school, he honked the horn but no one could hear it. He then ran into the classroom and asked Mary to help take the children to the bus. Mary felt that he wouldn't be able to handle so many children alone, so she boarded the bus with them. Together, they began searching for the fastest and shortest route out of Paradise School. All the roads were dangerously jammed, so Kevin tried driving in the wrong lane. Suddenly, a fire truck appeared, and they nearly collided but narrowly escaped. Small fires were burning along the sides of the road. Passing through them, they finally reached a safe area. Meanwhile, Ruby tried contacting Kevin over the radio, but there was no response. She then asked her assistant to call him, only to learn that Kevin's phone had no signal. At the same time, official evacuation orders were issued for the entire city of Paradise before the fire reached it, as the fire had now become completely uncontrollable. After one last failed attempt to reach Kevin, Ruby and the rest of the staff abandoned the garage and headed toward a nearby city, as everyone's life was now in danger. During the journey, Kevin began talking to Mary to calm himself down. He learned that Mary had spent her entire life in this small town, while Kevin had left during his youth and had only returned a few months earlier after hearing about his father's death. Amid the chaos, Mary tried to calm herself by thinking about her 15-year-old son Jake and her husband. Once she felt calmer, she went to check on the children at the back of the bus and did her best to encourage them. That's when they learned that the hospital had also been caught in the fire. Ray sent his team to rescue the patients, and at the same time he received news that the fire was far worse than they had imagined. The fire was spreading even faster. While searching for escape routes for civilians, firefighters realized that all the roads were completely jammed, because many drivers had abandoned their vehicles in the middle of the road and fled on foot. Ray ordered his men to clear the stuck vehicles from the roads. Otherwise, even more people would be trapped in the fire due to the traffic jams. When Kevin learned that the highway was also blocked, he panicked badly and once again tried calling his son, but Sean still didn't answer. Kevin grew even more worried because he knew his mother wouldn't be able to take Sean anywhere in the car. Seeing the fire getting closer, Kevin told Mary to take over the steering wheel while he got down to help clear the traffic so they could escape as quickly as possible. After clearing part of the road, Kevin returned to the driver's seat. He felt relieved, thinking they were now only a few meters away from Paradise School. But their troubles were just beginning. When they arrived, they saw that the school itself was already scorched by flames, and because the radio was down, Ruby hadn't been able to warn him. Mary quickly got off the bus. She hoped that at least some parents might have arrived looking for their children, but she soon realized that no one was there. Everyone had already fled. Confused and terrified, she told Kevin that they needed to take the children to another city immediately. Perhaps everyone else had gone there to escape the fire. Surrounded by fire and ash, the children were extremely frightened. They felt they might never see their parents again. Mary tried her best to calm them down. As Kevin drove toward a major highway to escape the area, he noticed power lines shaking, and suddenly one of them snapped and fell, causing multiple accidents. To avoid the electric current, Kevin had to take another route. He smashed through a wooden fence blocking the way and moved forward. After this dangerous turn, he finally reached the highway, but what he saw left him in shock. The entire road was destroyed. Firefighters and police officers were risking their lives to rescue people trapped between burning vehicles. Kevin then noticed armed men forcefully looting cars. They tried to seize the bus as well. To protect the children, Kevin drove the bus into another lane and, making sharp turns one after another, somehow managed to escape. Meanwhile, in a neighboring city, Ruby was desperately trying to find out if there was any news of Kevin. She knew he was driving a bus full of children. One driver told her that Kevin hadn't arrived yet. Ruby tried to reassure the worried parents, but how could they stay calm? They were terrified for their children. Kevin was now a few miles away from the main road when he reached a workshop where he had once worked during his youth. According to his knowledge, there was a road on the other side of the building that could lead them out of the city. Just as they were about to leave, one of the children on the bus suddenly became very sick. The smoke and fear had taken a severe toll on the children's bodies. Seeing this, Mary asked Kevin to stop the bus and went out to find water for the child. Before leaving, she told Kevin, If I don't come back in 5 minutes, continue without me." While searching, Mary entered a van and found a crate full of water bottles. She ran back toward the bus, but on the way she spotted an armed man. Suddenly, an explosion went off behind him, distracting him, and Mary quickly climbed back onto the bus. Kevin started the engine, but the fire caused by the explosion blocked the path, forcing him to take a longer route. After leaving the workshop area, the bus soon reached a deserted dirt road. Kevin explained that this road would lead them back to the main highway, but to get there, they would have to cross a large valley with an extremely narrow road. One small mistake and they would lose their lives. On the way, Kevin saw people heading back in the direction they had come from. He realized that the main road must already be under control or blocked. Once those people passed, Kevin stepped out and carefully examined whether there was any possible way out. He soon realized that the bus was trapped in the middle of the fire. No one would be able to reach them in time to rescue them. Kevin returned to the bus and concluded that there was only one way to save the children: they would have to wait inside the bus. He hoped that firefighters would extinguish the fire before it reached them. But if that didn't happen, they would all die. Kevin asked Mary to help him. He tore his shirt into small pieces and asked her to soak them in water so the children could use them as makeshift air filters. At the same time, Kevin sealed all the vents with tape to prevent smoke from entering the bus. After doing all this, he began to pray to God. After hours of failed attempts to control the fire, Ray's daughter requested a private meeting with her boss. She reported that they were receiving information that many people were trapped inside their vehicles because of the fire. Thousands more were running on foot in all directions to save their lives. If the firefighters couldn't bring the disaster under control quickly, the death toll by morning would reach several thousands. Hearing this, Ray realized he had to make a choice between fighting the fire and saving people. Since the number of trapped civilians was enormous, he ordered all firefighters to focus entirely on evacuating people as quickly as possible. Inside the bus, Kevin told the children to stay away from the windows because the glass had started heating up due to the extreme temperature. He sat in his seat, calming his mind and waiting for help. Mary then shared that she had only left the city twice in her entire life, once for a vacation and once for her honeymoon. She had always believed that her small town was completely safe. But now she realized that this was no way to live. She promised herself that if she survived the fire, she would travel the entire world and never live a suffocating life in one place again. Like Mary, Kevin also began recalling memories as he faced death. 28 years earlier, he had a fight with his father one evening when he was 16. He got so angry that he left home. One day, his mother called and told him that his father was very ill. Kevin thought he would return and fix everything one last time, but by the time he arrived, his father had already passed away. After losing his father, Kevin decided to fix his relationship with his own son. But even that hadn't gone well. Crying, Kevin thought, "I couldn't be a good father nor a good son." At that moment, as Kevin realized the fire was getting closer to the bus, he quickly grabbed a fire extinguisher and rushed outside to slow the surrounding flames and buy them more time. Together with Mary, he tried to stretch the children's survival for as long as possible. When Kevin realized he couldn't stop the fire from reaching the bus, he understood that they would have to drive through the wall of fire. Just then he discovered that the engine had shut down due to the extreme heat. He ran to fix it. After a moment, he shouted to Mary inside the bus, "Turn the key now." Luckily, the engine started. Kevin grabbed the steering wheel and slammed his foot on the accelerator, driving straight through the flames. As the bus passed through the burning inferno, the children panicked, believing they might never see their parents again. Even Mary was terrified in that moment. Inside she had already accepted her death. But Kevin had made up his mind. No matter what, he would safely deliver the children back to their parents. Within minutes, he managed to drive the bus out of the sea of fire. Shortly after, they finally reached the road, far away from the dark clouds of smoke covering paradise. Kevin finally breathed a sigh of relief. Mary could hardly believe that they had survived. A little later, the bus arrived at a refugee center in a neighboring city, where the children were reunited with their parents. After seeing that all the children had been safely handed over, Mary hugged Kevin in joy and thanked him for getting everyone to the shelter safely. At that moment, she saw her sister standing beside her son, and she felt immense relief knowing that both of them were safe. Since Stephen was out of the city, Mary already knew he wasn't in danger. On the other hand, when Kevin met Ruby, tears filled her eyes. She saluted his bravery, saying that even in such a terrible situation, he had continued doing his duty. After completing his mission, Kevin grew worried about his mother and son. When he checked the list, he realized that their names weren't there. Panicking, he searched the entire shelter for his family. Then he saw his mother receiving treatment near an ambulance. Kevin rushed to her and asked, "Mom, how did you get here?" Jerry told him that a neighbor had brought her directly to the shelter from their house, while Sean had been taken by his mother, Linda. As soon as Linda heard about the fire spreading, she rushed to Paradise to save her son. Hearing this, Kevin finally felt at peace. The next day, when the firefighters managed to bring the fire under control, Kevin went back to his house to see if anything had survived. He found that everything had been burned to ashes. Picking up one of his son's childhood photographs, Kevin stood there sadly, looking at what remained of his home. Just then he saw a car approaching. As soon as Linda parked, Sean jumped out and ran toward his father, hugging him tightly. In that moment, Kevin realized that it wasn't too late. He could still become a good father, rebuild his relationship with his son, and do whatever it took to make things right.